Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Thursday, the 24th of February, 2022. I'm Mary Grace, and we are live. This is Real Talk with Mary Grace, and very interesting news unfolding since last night, even as we speak. Russia has invaded Ukraine. I think most of you have become aware of that by now. Um, I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want to talk about some other things as well. So come on in, jump in, let me see you, say hello, and we will get this party started. Hope everybody's having a good day. There we go. Hey guys, pray for my voice. I've got the lozenge in, um, and I want to be able to talk. So that would be awesome. Okay. Good to see you guys. Say hello, tag your friends, share this in groups. If you watch my YouTube, please go to yesterday's YouTube and the one before and share it. They get they're getting incredibly shadow banned. I explained what that is yesterday, and it was very interesting because that particular episode where I explained shadow banning um, has been, it's like it's been put at the bottom of the sandbox. So I really do appreciate everybody sharing, and I appreciate your prayers, and I appreciate the messages that you send me and the comments that you give me. I do read those. And so as you're coming into this today, please share it. Let me see if I can somebody put it in my Telegram? That would be great. Uh, yeah. So the other thing I want to tell you is that the resident up in the White House is going to be giving a press conference at 1:30. And George News is going to be streaming it. So I don't know that I could pull it in so we could watch it, but I think I'm just going to keep talking and you guys can watch it on replay. Is that okay? Um, I think that would probably be better. But anyway, let me just check my feed here. There's so much going on. So much going on right now. And I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Why should we listen to his drabble? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the main thing that we should take from this is that he wasn't speaking last night. His they issued a statement from his Twitter account, but I think he was in bed, probably had too much pudding, and they had to put him to bed. So yeah, we'll just stay over here. Okay. Now there's one interesting thread that I want to read to you. It was on Twitter and then it got nuked. The account got nuked, which tells me that I need to give you this information because, as you know, the information warfare that we're in um, is is pretty obvious by now. If you don't see it, I pray that God opens your eyes to see what's going on. The fact that somebody came up with a hypothesis about what's actually going on with Russia and Ukraine and that their account was deleted within hours off of Twitter tells you what maybe could be happening. Yeah. Um, now, I I talked to you a couple weeks ago, I think it was, about Ukraine, and I talked to you about the fact that there is a an aeronautics plant in Ukraine that produces a plane that is capable of launching satellites very quickly and efficiently, and especially the satellites that China wants to put into orbit, which would make them, which would give them total dominance over the over cyberspace. And I went into a little bit of how how Trump set up Space Force, and the fact that a lot of the a lot of the situation that's going on in Ukraine, I think, has to do with that. Now, there's other things in Ukraine I think that people need to be aware of, and that is that, of course, it was what we know is that it has been a hub of international trafficking of persons, children, drugs, and also money laundering. And if you've paid attention at all to what's been going on with Hunter Biden, um, then you kind of understand that there are a lot of secrets that are housed in Ukraine that certain people don't want exposed. And the interesting thing about this is that a lot of, we've been listening to President Trump. He's been talking about Vladimir Putin. And, we know that the Democrats accused Trump of being a Putin puppet. I mean, some of them still believe that. And that, we had 3 years of Russia, Russia, Russia accusing Trump of colluding with Russia to steal the election, which I think is kind of interesting. But Trump isn't the one who gave Russia the Nord Stream pipeline. That was Biden. And there are people among the Anons who believe that Putin is actually helping to take down the deep state. Um, and the article, the thread that I'm going to read you has a little bit of, I think would support that. Okay. Now, when I tell you the things that I tell you, and when you listen to President Trump talking, I want you to understand that he always talks in layers. He always talks in multiple layers of meaning. And I don't want you ever to get distracted by saying that President Trump is is a close ally, or I don't want you to get distracted by President Trump saying that he's friends with Vlad, that he knows him well, things like that. Because there are people who will try to spin that to tell you that President Trump is colluding with Putin. That they're close allies. Now, on a deeper level, they might actually be, because we think that Trump actually may be working with Putin and Xi to take down the deep state. I know that that's a stretch. I get that it's a stretch for people to think that, especially because the media has worked overtime to demonize those two people in particular. And President Trump himself, he hasn't always had kind words for either of them. But there's a balancing act and a nuance here. And if you recall, when President Trump first was elected and he started traveling, he went and met with certain world leaders. And please remember that when he went to uh, when he went to China, he was taken into the Forbidden City. A lot of people forgot that. And we think that he actually met with Kim Jong Un in the Forbidden City during that time, but that's another story. Um, but just go back as you're looking at all that's unfolding and as you're being bombarded with all of the news, the videos, the footage, the commentators. Try to recall the things that happened and the news that you saw with President Trump, regarding like the real stuff that President Trump actually did with Putin, with Xi, things like that. If you remember when Trump bombed Syria, he had President Xi at Mar-a-Lago and they were eating chocolate cake, and and Trump said, "Oh, by the way, we just bombed Syria." So, part of what Trump has been doing is asserting dominance and reasserting the United States dominance um, uh, during all this time. Let me see if I can clear off my lens here. I don't know if it's got something. Maybe is that better? Um, Hold on. I think I may have. Is that better? All right. I had the blur effect on. All right. So, little pause there. Um, Now, I think that, yeah, I think it's important to remember this, all right? I'm trying not to be distracted. I'm not gonna read your comments for now because I wanna be focused on what I'm talking about. Um, so thank you guys for telling me about the blur. I know what happened. I had my thumb on there yesterday. Um, okay. So I'm thinking this through, obviously, as we're talking. Um, there's just a lot unfolding, and I'm processing this. I probably should be doing a walk and talk, but it's way too cold to do that. So, so please just bear with me because I'm sort of processing this with you. Now, I just so go back to Trump and what happened over the past over the 4 years of when he was in office the first time. Um, and think about the things that he was doing. Think about his interactions with these world leaders and some of the messaging that he dropped at that time and the messaging that he's been dropping now. He gave a speech yesterday at Mar-a-Lago where he mentioned Putin. He was on Laura Ingraham last night where he was mentioning talking about Putin. And I guess what I would say is that uh everything is not as it appears to be. I think it's safe to say that. I think it's safe to say that there are things going on with this conflict, with this invasion that we don't know about or and that we don't fully understand. Now there could be one theory that that Russia is doing the bidding of the elites to take out evidence of all of their corruption in Ukraine. That could be one theory. Another theory is that Putin is actually acting as a white hat to take possession of all of that and to help reveal it and put an end to it. Um, there's that. It could be that Putin is allying with China to try to take over that part of the world and ally with Iran and become a superpower axis of superpowers. That's one theory. Um, but what let me read to you this thread that was posted by somebody called Clandestine. Now, it had to be archived. It's archived because they took his account down. I'm going to have to be very careful about how I read this to you. I'm going to use some code words because obviously, if his account got taken down, there are people who don't want you to get this information. So bear with me as I read this. I am going to use a lot of code words. I will I will post this link on my Telegram. I don't think that I'll post it on the YouTube chat for obvious reasons. So this is an account. The account was called at War Clandestine, and I don't know if they're on Truth Social. But he says, "Holy, you know what? Um, I think I may be onto something about Ukraine." Zelensky said the Russians are firing at military installations, and that's in quotes. How broad is that term? I'm seeing speculation that it could include US installed. Um, this is where it gets tricky. I'm going to put the word up to the screen here. You see that? Okay. So these installations belong to the United States. See that? Okay. So if you're driving, or you're multitasking. I'm sorry, you'll just have to look at the screen. All right. So he says, first, I checked if the US even had those installations in Ukraine. We're just going to call them installations. All right. It turns out we do. And in classic US fashion, it's marketed as defense. Okay. And here's what they call it. See what they call it? Right there. Has to do with threat reduction. Where have we heard that before? Something about gain of function? All right. Studying the most dangerous germs in the world at Russia's border. Now, this is on the there's you can actually go to the US Embassy website. I do have a link for that. Hold on a second. This is documented if they haven't removed it. So this is what it looks like. You can go there and you can look this up. See that? It's from the US Embassy in Ukraine. And they post what it is. This is the information about that program. See that? Can everybody see it? All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're getting something out of this. Please share this because, a lot of people aren't on Twitter. A lot of people have not found this on Telegram, and you can be sure that it's being censored everywhere. All right. So please share it. Get the word out so that let people know we're talking about this. Now let me find my original thread. Where did it go? There we go. Okay, so now we know that's legitimate. All right, he didn't just pull that out of a hat. Okay, now the words are a little bit jumbled up on the page here, but I'm going to try to read it. Okay, so he says, okay, so now we are studying the world's most deadly pathogens at Russia's border. It's just for defense. Not that big of a deal, right? All right. If your feed is frozen, you might need to refresh. All right. Now, he says, wrong. I didn't know this until today, but Russia has been accusing us of creating bioweapons at their border. Yeah. So it says, and they have it's a little bit the writing is a little bit jumbled, so bear with me. When the archive, it's like it has words, the words are layered over it. So I'm trying to read through. It's like double print, it's like something's layered over it on the archive site. That's why that's why it's taking me so long. So bear with me. And they have good reason to believe that as the US NIH funded function in that other city, in that other country where everything started, the US funded that, and then the plague got out to the world and ruined the world. All right. So it says, now this is interesting. It says Russia and China asked the UN for the US and its allies to be checked and limited in biocapabilities 4 months ago. What? So let me read that again. Russia and China asked the UN for the US and its allies to be checked and limited in biocapabilities 4 months ago. So process that for a minute and think about all that we know from the last 2 years. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of all the shutdowns. This is significant. Now you can see why his account got taken down. Um, Now, then he says, I assume it's a he. I don't know. It could be a woman. Do you all know what this means? He says it in all caps. Um, China and Russia indirectly and correctly blamed us for the outbreak and are fearful that the US and its allies have more of the same but different, more varieties. Okay, I'm speaking to you in code now, to let out. So, are you tracking with me? Right there in that country that is currently being invaded, um, it is a fact that these facilities, these installations that have been installed by the US and that are documented on the Department of State website, on the Ukraine embassy website, that these installations are there, and that it's being uh, referred to as defense. So think about this, because one of the things that we know about this practice that Baby Mengele has pushed, and that Baby Mengele has pushed and has defended, is that all of the things that they've done have been um, defensive to help prevent. They've created lethal pathogens, and they have weaponized them. Not I don't want to say weaponized. They have activated them uh, in order to study the potential for harm. In other words, they take something that is maybe benign, and they have amped it up and made it actually deadly and more contagious, more harmful. I'm being a little obtuse here intentionally. So please ask Holy Spirit for clarification. Call a friend if you can't figure out what I'm talking about. I'm just being very careful. At some point, when I get on Truth Social, I won't have to be. I probably should have live streamed this to Rumble. I'll download it when I'm done here. Uh, Please share this. If you're getting interference on a platform that you're watching on, you can switch platforms. I'm live right now on YouTube. I'm on Twitter at Real Mary Grace 1, and I am on Clout Hub channel 111, and I'm on Facebook, Mary Grace Media. All right, so here we go. Uh, he says, this is massive, yet I'm disturbed that I hadn't known about this 4 months ago. So, how does this pertain to Ukraine? Well, where in Ukraine are the explosions taking place? Um, Here's a reported explosion in Lutsk, Lutsk. This is 75 miles inland in far western Ukraine, the opposite border of Russia. I think it's close to the border of Poland. What does this have to do with Crimea, Donetsk in the east? So remember, we've been told that Putin wanted to annex Crimea, and that there are a couple of provinces in Ukraine that are really predominantly ethnically Russian, and who identify more as Russians. Um, it- and so it begs the question: what the heck is he doing in the western part of um, of Ukraine? All right. So, and the link that he posts is from an account called PM Breaking News. Explosion reported in Lutsk, Ukraine, which is less than 75 miles from the border of Poland. All right. So reportedly, Kiev has seen missile strikes as well at their airports and military installations. Kiev is also on the western side of Ukraine, also a city that our government have confirmed the US have built these facilities in. All right. Um, and then there's another link, explosions in the outskirts of Kiev. All right. And then it says Putin also continues to call it a special military operation. Now, one thing I do want to tell you is that Putin actually came out and gave a call to the Ukraine military to lay down their arms, basically saying that this was not a fight against the people of Ukraine, that it's that it's a bigger fight. So that's kind of interesting. Now, as I read this to you, I want to make it clear I am not an expert on Ukraine. I'm not an expert on the Middle East. This is not something that I have researched widely. So please take everything that I'm telling you with a grain of salt, um, or take what I'm telling you. I don't know if a grain of salt is the right word. Just take what I'm telling you and pray through it, ask for discernment, understand that I'm not pretending to give you a deep dive into what's happening and all of the nuances and details of what actually is happening in Ukraine. Um, Delia, it looks like Delia just came in. So Delia, if you're taking notes, the stuff that I'm reading right now, I think that we need to be a little bit vague about what I'm talking about, and we need to just direct people to look at this on my Telegram channel. My Telegram is Mary Grace Media Official. All right. So, how do you know that he's calling it a special military operation? So he says he wants to demilitarize and denazify the country, but not occupy it. What does he mean by that? What is he really targeting? Now, this is very interesting that he uses that word because if you remember, do you guys remember the situation in Charlottesville um, in 2000? What year was that? August 12th. I should know that. I went down there. When the supposed white supremacists were marching with torches through the university. Do you remember that image? I just remembered this. Um, and there was a similar situation where 2017. Thank you. I'm just you guys remember. Okay, so help me remember this. I'm just recalling because that that image of those men walking with those torches, the tiki torches, they were supposedly, uh, you know, um, white supremacist, and a lot of people really came to the conclusion that it was a false flag, that they were plants. Um, but the media has continued to run with it to this day. Well, there's a very similar image to Ukrainian operatives. There's an image. Can anybody find it? There's an image of Ukrainian operatives doing almost the same thing. So what I'm trying to tell you is that there's an element here that is using that is actually um, like a neo-Nazi element that is using tactics that the media is running with, uh, that the media is running with to actually demonize the wrong people. That's the point that I'm saying here. But this is getting back to this thread. That was a little bit of a rabbit trail. All right. Um, okay, Delia is saying it was supposed to be like the Orange R in February 2015. Is that the Orange Revolution? Is that what that stands for? Okay. Um, all right. So he says what does Putin mean by that? What is he really targeting? And so on Twitter there is an account, I guess it's a reporter, um, Paul Sonne, Sonne. All right. Um, it says Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that Russia is undertaking a special military operation in Ukraine, saying that his goal is to demilitarize and denazify the the country. And then, sorry, I'm sorry, it's a little jumbled here. I wish I had a cleaner copy. It looks like somebody laid down a piece of paper um, that with wet ink on top of this thing. All right. It says, yes, we know he targeted airports and military capabilities, but if Putin really believes, as his admin has stated publicly multiple times, that the US are creating these facilities at the borders, then the entire situation could be way bigger, the borders of Russia. He says, and he goes on to say, I'm not sure what is going on, but in the past 4 months, Russia and China accused the US of creating these installations at their borders, and none of us heard about it, and our media wrote it off as disinformation and largely didn't report on it other than to call it a conspiracy theory. So um, the fact that our media is calling all of this conspiracy theory should be your first clue. Well, the first clue was that they took down this account pretty soon after all this was posted. The second clue is that the media has been calling all of this conspiracy theory since this came out. Shocker, I know. Um, anything anybody the me the- anything the media labels as conspiracy theory is more than likely true, right? It's a spoiler alert. Um, okay, so he says for all of this to make sense, you must be privy to the reality that the US NIH did indeed create the invisible enemy in that city far, far away that starts with a W, which has been largely accepted as the reality and confirmed in the emails between Collins and Baby Mengele. I broke down their official emails released by Congress. So he had a thread that he posted on the 18th of January, breaking down the source material between those scientists. Of course, we can't see that right now because his account got taken out. All right. So he says we need a reporter to ask um, the Brandon administration or international reporters to ask their admins what they know about the U.S. Installations in that country. And then he posts an image. He says, "Here's an overlap of reported missile strike locations and the facility locations. Since the top map was made, more missiles hit Lviv as well. It certainly appears Putin is targeting the cities and locations with those labs present. He is 100% going after the alleged um, bad things that they're creating." So let me show you this image. So the top image, you can see everything is circled in green. So the top image shows the targets that have been bombed, and the bottom image shows where those US installations are. So there's where the bombing has taken place. Okay? And then there's where those installations are. You see how they're like on those borders? Very interesting, huh? So, okay. Let me just see where these are. I think it's very interesting. So, and then you can see some of the replies to his thread, and it's a lot of bots and shills that are, criticizing him and being really ugly. That's another sign that you're over the target. Because in a normal conversation, you would have people asking questions, you would have people agreeing and saying, "Oh yeah, I saw the same thing," or, "Can you tell me about this?" That kind of thing. But when somebody is really effective on Twitter, that is when all the trolls are released, like a pack of wild dogs, and all they do is criticize, and they're nasty. The things that they say, it's disgusting. So that's how you can, that's how that works. Tracy was trying to send me screenshots. Tracy, can you email me? It's info@marygracemedia.com. Um, yeah, if you have screenshots, info@marygracemedia.com. I would appreciate that. So I wanted to get that out to you. Like I said, okay, now it looks like I'm having connection issues. Interesting. Hasn't happened in a long time. Let's see. Very interesting. Huh. It says I'm online everywhere. Give me a comment if you are hearing me, if you're seeing me here. Very, very interesting, isn't it? Wow. Um, Unbelievable. Okay. Yeah. Pray that my channel stays up, guys. All right. Just give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're here. Good. All right. My restream just gave me a message that things were falling apart here. All right. Good. Now, in the midst of all this, let's not forget what's happening on the home front here. All right. Because leave it to the saber rattlers in the media and the neocons and the Democrats to create a massive, massive distraction. Don't forget that. Don't forget that there are things happening in um, in the world of all of it, the COVID world, the Durham world, the freedom world, um, all of the things that are super important. We have midterm elections coming up. Um, and here's something too that I want to present to you. If how how helpful is it for a regime that most people believe is illegitimate, and I'm talking about the one in the White House? How helpful is it to their polling numbers going into a midterm election where they're already behind? How helpful is it um, for them to have Russia invade Ukraine? In other words, if they're in charge, wouldn't they do everything possible to keep this from happening? I mean, just something to think about, you know. So, is it a bad situation? Yes. One thing that we've been warned about, though, is really be careful about the images and videos that we share off of the internet of military activity, of bombings, of things burning, whatever, war images. One of the accounts that I trust, I think it was Connie Koa, the great. One of the accounts that I trust in the Anons said, there's a lot of there's a lot of propaganda out there right now, and just remember that. So the images that are being shown on social media, the images that are being allowed to trend on social media, are most often propaganda. And so really think about that. They're meant to drive a narrative, just like when we saw people falling over in China during the beginning of the plague. It was those images were allowed to trend and to go viral because it stoked the fear. It accomplished their goal of getting people fearful so that they would comply with whatever measures were put in place to control the populace. So let's apply that. Let's apply what we know to what's going on right now. Um, and when we see these videos, when we see these images, especially involving children or civilians or things like that, um, uh, remember it was the media for the past 5 years who have stoked the fires of distrust against Russia. And why would they change? They're the ones who wanted to spark World War III. It's them. And so when you hear of when you see images and you see videos of so-called atrocities perpetrated by Putin coming out of Ukraine, keep that in mind. Who has who benefits by demonizing Vladimir Putin to the world? Who benefits by showing images um, of devastation to the world? Okay. Again, I'm not trying to minimize what may or may not be happening there in real life. I'm not saying that this is staged. I'm not saying they're crisis actors. I'm just saying that we can't we don't know that we can actually verify the images that are being pushed. Do you understand? I just want to really emphasize that, um, because that we know how the media manipulates. We know they do that. We know how they got us into this mess. Um, in the beginning, with with the whole lockdowns. They manipulated the conscience and the emotions of the general public. And look at let's go back to another tragedy that happened in America, um, that was in September of 2001, where the people were so terrified by what happened and by the constant um, focus of the media on it, that they even begged for the measures of the Patriot Act to be passed and enacted. And we've never gotten free of that. We gave up a lot of freedoms at that time because of the fear that was stoked around that incident. Again, I'm not here to tell you, did people die, didn't they die? That's not what I'm debating. What I'm asking you to do is to really give serious thought to how the media uses those situations to manipulate people. Because remember, the media, the mainstream media, they're the enemy of the people. And they work in conjunction, they work at the orders of the global elites who want all of us to be in perpetual serfdom and slavery. They want centralized government, they want a one world government, and they want to deplete all of the wealth and resources of the middle class. They want to destroy the middle class. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you see images coming out. Pay attention to celebrities. Celebrities are going to be telling you what you should think about what's going on right now. And so I guess my rule of thumb is, if the whatever the media is telling you, do just it's the opposite. Just believe the opposite. All right. Whatever woke celebrities are telling you we should do, we should probably do the opposite. Um, and that is why it's really essential right now when you see people beating the drums of war and saying that our men and women should be going to Ukraine. We've got to help them. We've got to help them. Whoa, Nelly, not so fast. Okay. um, just keep a level head here and be very careful that you're not manipulated. And this is also a good time to maybe use this opportunity to red pill um, your normie friends, because you know they're glued to the news. I mean, I have friends who, for them this is us getting pulled into World War III. So again, you know, it's not. I don't think it is, but but it is. But it is. It's an interesting situation. Now, somebody put a question in YouTube just now. I want to read it and see if this is. I just want to read this question. Okay, it says, so was Trump fighting against this without appearing to ally these countries to come against this? Pat, I think, yeah, I think that's part of what was going on. All right. Um, I listened to Trump talk about Putin, and he talks about he's letting us know that he is in pretty constant contact with Putin. Um, Now, isn't that interesting? So again, if Putin were doing the bidding of Biden, would he be in contact with President Trump? By contrast, if Putin were actually part of the white hat operation to get at the heart of the corruption and to expose what's actually been happening. I mean, the thread that I just read to you about these facilities in Ukraine, that's just part of what's happening in Ukraine. We know that money laundering has been taking place there. We know that trafficking goes through there. We know that it's one of the central hubs of money that has poured into the pockets of the elites. I mean, think about this. The video that we have of Joe Biden basically uh, um, extorting the Ukrainians to drop an investigation against a corrupt oligarch. It all centered around aid. He was withholding the aid to Ukraine um, as a condition of dropping that investigation. You remember that? I think it was Poroshenko that was under investigation. And so think about that, because one of the things that I think you have learned through all of this is that all of the money that they say that we're giving to these countries to help them has actually gone into the pockets of the cabal, the elites. You get that, right? Because otherwise, I mean, why the heck are these third world countries still third world countries? I mean, these people that we've given them, money to the tune of billions and billions of dollars, and they're still like, their sewage still runs through the streets. Like, we couldn't have even put sewage in for them with that money. You know what I'm saying? Where the heck did that money go? All right. Um, So Lisa is saying on YouTube, Ukraine was uh, the piggy bank for Clinton, Biden, etc. Right? Um, Mel K says that Obama interfered in Ukraine to put in deep state leadership. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So guys, I feel like I feel like the house of cards is crumbling down. I think it's obvious at this point that the corruption, that the layers of corruption, the layers of deep state, global cabal, elite corruption are multitude. They're legion, and the job of the white hats, um, it never could be accomplished by just Trump alone, obviously, and it had to take place with the cooperation of other world leaders. Is it not pretty clear to you by now that that's the case? That he and the team of white hats who are going against this globalist cabal, they really had to they had to work together. Um, and I think that a lot of this started well before President Trump actually took office. And, if one of the indicators of that is that the domain name for Truth Social was actually purchased, uh, I think it was in 2010. Think about that. And it's kind of interesting because President Trump was talking in an interview the other day with Buck Sexton and Clay Travis, and he was talking about Truth Social, and he it was so funny. He's such a boomer sometimes, but he was saying that he was saying that talking about when he wanted to get the name for the new social media platform. He made it sound like it was just like a few months ago that they were having this conversation, right? And this is part of his genius in the way that he drives it's part of the persona that he presents to the world. He makes it sound like he like just thought of stuff, he's like, yeah, they said we needed a 5-letter name for it, and I just thought, I thought, well, what if we get the word truth? What if we get truth? Um, and all right, I'm going to stop right here. Kelly in my Facebook, I'm going to call you out here. Okay. Why would you come into my discussion right now on this and start blackpilling people about Trump supporting the vaccine and the booster? He hasn't said word one about that in probably 2 months now. He's moved on. He's not doing that. What possesses you to bring that into this conversation? I'm just going to drop it right now. All right, let me go on here. It annoys me. That's a black pill. Okay. Um just, think logically. Let me go on to what I was saying. So, he's talking about coming up with the name Truth Social, and he acts like he doesn't understand how this works. He acts like he doesn't understand branding, okay? And so he's telling you his thought process, but he's sounding like a total normie who doesn't understand branding, right? And so he's like, "Yeah, I was asking them about whether we could get the name Truth." And they were like, "Yeah, gee, I don't know." And then it turns out it was available. Um and so that's what we got. So he literally, I love it because, so much of what he does is for the haters. All right. Um so much of what he is doing is, it's part of the psyop. Okay, it's part of the psyop of, the bumbling rube that doesn't actually know how anything works. He actually leverages that persona to keep the deep state thinking that he's completely ineffective and stupid. If anybody understands and knows branding, it's President Trump. Now, when it comes to the tech part of it, maybe not so much, but that's the boomer part, right? Um, but when it comes to the actual branding, I mean, he's a genius at that. Okay, so I just want you guys to be clear that, as I was saying, I think that a lot of what we're seeing right now is a continuation, like the storm is happening, and it started a long time ago. That's what I'm saying. And so, is it going to get rocky? Yes, it is. Um, I'm not going to try to, you know, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat this. Should you fill up with gas? Yeah, you should, because the easiest thing that Brandon could do right now is to bring U.S. oil production um, uh, back online, but he won't, because he wants the American people to suffer. He told us that we were going to have a dark winter of death. And, we actually survived and thrived, and we got them to lift a lot of their restrictions because the people learned how to bring the bonds against the school board members, and against all these tyrants that are masking our kids. And so, that prediction didn't come true. So now he wants to price you out of, even being able to buy a tank of gas. And never forget that these increases, these price increases, um, are actually a massive, massive pay cut for the lower and middle class. It's a huge, huge, huge uh, red pill for people because it's inflation. It's like it's worse than a tax hike. That's what I'm trying to say. It's worse than a tax hike because people are paying double out of pocket for gas every month. They are paying, in some cases, anywhere from 10 to 50% more for groceries. That's worse than a tax hike. So he can sit there and tell you all day long that he hasn't raised taxes, but what's happening now with inflation is way worse than a tax hike. It's way worse. All right. Um, okay, I want to read what's going on here. Roger. Okay. Um, I don't know the story that they're talking about in the chat here with Roger. Maybe somebody can fill me in. Okay. I was reading that while I was talking to you guys. Now, um, let me just check the my notes here. So I hope that you guys I hope you're starting to see and to be able to read between the lines, um, and to be able to read between the lines and to understand a little bit more about what is going on. Okay, so I'm getting news here in the chat that Roger has a fiance in Kiev. Okay, and it looks like he can't get in touch with her. Um, okay, so let's pray that she has a way to get in touch with him, that she's okay, and that she will find a way to reach him, and that he won't worry, that the peace of God will keep him. All right. Now here's the thing. There's people out there who have no idea what's going on, and so part of your job uh is to be to bring the peace of God to these people. Because if you're going around, like Chicken Little, and edifying the darkness, um, it's not going to help anybody. So, be the voice of peace and reason and quiet in this process, so that people are not in places of despair. And here's the other thing: we don't want we don't want people to get in a position again, just like they did with other tragedies, where they are demanding and agreeing to and acquiescing to have more of their rights stripped away. We don't want that. So don't, your conversations that you're having with people can help to alleviate and to avert some of that, right? Um, it's just little by little, we have to help wake people up. Delia is saying that someone else, Dr. D of Table of Titans, also has a fiance in that country. Wow. Okay. Um, yeah. So anybody that has friends or family members or loved ones over there, let's just pray that the communication a is just an outcome of communication being down, and not that something that they've come to any harm. All right. Uh, so the best thing you can do right now in terms of all of that's going on is to turn off the mainstream media. I think you probably already have. You may have family members who are still doing that, um, who are still watching it. So, just do the best you can to do the best you can to try not to see it. you know, I went to the gym the other day, and they have these TVs up there, and you're supposed to be able to hear them through the app. But for some reason, one of them, the volume was actually on, and it was on CNN. And so I didn't turn the volume down. I just turned the whole TV off. And I turned both TVs off in this one section. And when I went back a couple days later, they were both still off. So, you'd be surprised at how effective it is to go into a place that has TVs on and turn them off, and how nobody minds. Like if you're at a car dealership and you're waiting for your car or whatever, just turn them off. You'd be amazed, or turn the volume down, change the channel. You'd be amazed at how little objection you get on that. Kelly is saying that her adult children think that Putin is trying to take over the world. Yeah. I mean, one question that I would ask people, it's like I was saying, um, is that, like, what benefit would it be to, what benefit would it be to this administration for Putin to do this? I mean, seriously, guys, think about it. It's not helping him. All right. Um, so just think about that. Now, speaking of turning TVs off, I wanted to tell you guys something, and here's something that I think is interesting. So one of the things that the enemy, this is a completely different topic. This goes back to the plague. One of the ways that they really drove the fear during the whole pandemic was with all of the messaging, all the propaganda, the signs on the floor, the bathrooms are closed, things like that. You know what I'm talking about. The signs that they put up out in public. And I think I told you that there's certain places that I go, and if a sign is loose or it's coming down, I might help it a little bit. Um, so I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just saying that we're 2 years into this propaganda campaign, the biggest PR campaign ever to hit the planet. And sometimes you might come across places where those propaganda materials still exist. And it may be that that you find that those things are not taped on securely, that the sticky is wearing off and that it's getting really dirty, or that one side is loose, and in order to prevent it from falling on the ground and becoming litter, people might have to preemptively clean that up. I'm just saying, um because seriously, 2 years, 2 years of this, that's all. um I mean, I've seen things that were falling down and I had to take them down and throw them away. But it's up to you. I'm just saying, you know, 2 years of propaganda, that's more than enough. All right. You do you, but you could have a little fun with it, don't damage anything, don't cause vandalism or anything like that. Uh but do they really need a sign at a picnic shelter outdoors at a park telling people to sit 6 feet apart? Um, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, things yeah, things are falling down and we don't want them to end up on the ground and causing litter. That's all. All right. Karen said Brett Baer on Fox used the phrase world order at least 3 times last night. Brett Baer, isn't he the one that called the election for Biden for Arizona? He called Arizona for Biden like 17 minutes after the polls closed. Something like that. Yeah. Uh can't stand seeing the Biden sign still up. Yeah, it's not a good idea to take political signs down. That's They're usually on private property for one thing. Um, Diane, I can't believe they just put up those signs at your apartment complex. Oh my gosh. That's just crazy. Crazy. Um, okay, guys. Listen, I might be going. I'm having fun reading your comments right now. All right. Listen, I might be going to join the convoy, the People's Convoy. And listen, before you guys get in a panic about the convoy, let me just tell you, last night, I saw Patrick Byrne posted a video and a statement about the convoy. And he um, he was saying that he was warning people on a couple of things. He was saying, you know, I don't think we should do the convoys. I think that we're about to win the information war, and I think this is going to hurt our messaging. He also said that the convoys are infiltrated, that he knows of places where there's a lot of Antifa, etc. And so people were kind of freaking out. And I got in touch with Ann Vandersteel. Um, uh, I got in touch with Ann Vandersteel. She's out there with the convoy. She and producer Liz, they started with the convoy in California. And I'm thinking of so I'm probably gonna go meet up with them and, you know, jump in the convoy with them out at some point. And so I sent this to Ann. I just said, "Hey, what's going on? Patrick, like should people be worried?" Because people were kind of freaking out. So she said that she was in touch with Patrick, and she said that the convoy that they're with, so Patrick's group, the America Project, was actually giving its endorsement to the People's Convoy, and he said that he decided to pull out. um, Anne doesn't really seem to be worried about it. She said she was in touch with Patrick. There's I guess a difference of opinion about it. They're not alarmed. They know the people that they're with. Lee Dundas is one of the people that is part of organizing this convoy. She's a human rights attorney. I find her to be incredibly smart and uh, savvy, and very has a lot of wisdom. So I'm not worried about that particular convoy. I also have seen General Flynn. I've seen General Flynn posting about the People's Convoy, and so I think that what I want to say to people is use your discernment. Uh, there are people who will be joining the convoys going through their particular area. There are people who are feeding the convoys. There are multiple convoys. There obviously, you have different groups that are coming from different areas. Now, people coming from different parts of the country may be joining up with the People's Convoy, right? So you may have convoys that are meeting up and joining along the way. There are convoys that are going along the southern route. There are convoys that are going into DC. The People's Convoy has stated very clearly that they are not going into DC proper. That's the convoy that I'm going to be joining. All right. And so I just want people to be aware that in any group there's going to be infiltrators. We know that. One of the fears that people have is that this is going to be another January 6th. Do I have inside information that tells you that it's not going to be? No. If I get, if my spidey senses, or if I get there and I get into the convoy and I feel like it's just not the right thing, or I notice something, I'm not going to stay. But honestly, uh, by the time they get to the meeting to where I'm going to see them, they'll know. I mean, I think within 2 days you're going to know if something is up. All right. Um, so, The crazy thing is, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the feds that pulled off everything to do with January 6th. Are they gonna try? Of course they're gonna try. They try to infiltrate everything. Do they try to infiltrate rallies? Yes, they do. Um, we're not gonna stop having rallies. We just have to exercise wisdom because, we can't, um yeah, Paul says it exactly. We can't be afraid forever. There you go. Me personally, I haven't been back to DC since the inauguration. I don't really want to go. I mean, who wants to go to a city that has a vaccine passport, where everybody there hates you if you're wearing, red? I mean, they're like a bunch of bulls wanting to gore you to death. All right. And so, it's one of those things. I think that we just have to play it by ear, take it day by day, get guidance from Holy Spirit, let the Lord show you. If you're paying attention, if you're listening, then you're going to stay out of trouble. Now, um, it's yeah, we can't stay afraid forever. We have to be wise. All right. Don't be scared, be prepared. But, we can't stay away forever. That's all. So that's my take on it. If people are, running around and screaming and sounding alarm bells, maybe just mute them, because it's the people have a choice. People have a choice. If you want to join a convoy, join a convoy. If you don't want to join a convoy, don't join a convoy. That's it. You know, Patrick has expressed his concern. He has, I think, some pretty solid arguments for not doing it. But people have decided to go ahead and do it, and that's everybody's choice. Okay. And I think they are planning to go around the Beltway, around DC. I mean, it's really Virginia and Maryland that people are going to be driving around, as far as I understand. Um, so, it's really up to individuals. And, if you decide to go to feed the convoys, if you decide to take part in that at the local level, I don't think it's a crime to give food to people that are driving trucks. I don't think, Now, what happened with Canada, where they were seizing bank accounts and things like that. Uh, could that happen here? Yeah. I mean, the stuff they've done to the January 6 prisoners, the way that they've treated people who are in DC. I wouldn't rule out anything with this administration. I mean, they hate you, but guys, we're at war. This is a war for our nation, for your children, for your children's children's. It's we can't hide. We can't hide under a rock and not take part in what is going on to take back this nation. All right. So if you want to follow the People's Convoy, it's thepeoplesconvoy.org. And that is where they have the route for that main convoy. And again, I'm guessing that some groups will be coming in from different arteries, to join the People's Convoy because they're mostly going along Route 40. Now, the route is subject to change. That's why it's important to follow the website. So if you're part of a group that is organizing, standing on overpasses, or meeting up with people to feed them, or anything like that, keep track of the website because it is all subject to change. Um, I was going to fly out and meet them, but then I realized, it's a fluid situation. Plus, the airlines just aren't reliable these days. So I didn't want to be stuck in an airport, way far away from where the convoy was, just trying to get a flight if it got canceled. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to drive. So uh, all that being said, all that being said, I don't know my show schedule for next week because if I'm with the convoy, Uh, I would be, I don't know how much driving I'm going to be doing. I don't know how much I'll be able to live stream. I don't know what the signals will be like, et cetera, et cetera. If I live stream, it will be to, more than likely, it will be onto YouTube. So for now, if you're not following my YouTube channel, make sure that you're following that. It's Mary Grace Media on YouTube. Um, and I'll keep you guys posted if I decide, I don't know if I'm leaving Monday or Tuesday. I'm just not sure yet. But it's penciled in on my calendar to go do that. So make sure that you're checking back, check my channel, turn on notifications for my YouTube channel, and check also on my Telegram. And that way, hopefully, people will see it. And people, if people can help me out when you see my live stream, share it into my Telegram channel because I can't do it at the same time that I'm live streaming. All right. Um, so that would really help. Let me see if I'm in the Telegram right now. Let me see. Yes, thank you, Millie, for putting that in my Telegram. All right. So, Karen says Kingman, Arizona. Karen, I thought they got into Kingman last night. Are you sure? Because I talked to them. I thought they were going to be in Kingman last night. So, all right. I wish that I were doing the part to drive across like the middle of the country because I like going across the Rockies and everything. But like I said, I'm not going to fly out there. I can't do the whole 10 days, but, but I can meet them up. I can meet up with them east of the Mississippi. So I'll keep you guys posted. Watch my channel, and thank you to my moderators. Thank you to Delia for taking notes. Thank you everybody for being here. And like I said, if you're following my channel, uh, if you're following my channel, make sure you subscribe and then share this. Get the information out and copy the link and put the links into groups that you belong to and then tag people because they're really uh yeah, they're really suppressing my feed. Yeah. Um okay. All right. Good to see everybody. Delia said they were already there. They were having issues with being able to buy food and fuel. Yeah, I think they got that situation resolved. Um okay. All right, guys. So pray for the convoy, pray for Ukraine, pray for me, pray for my family. Thank you for praying for my voice. It's really helpful today, and it's getting better. And I hope to be back. I don't know my schedule next week. If I'm on the convoy, if I'm driving, etc. I'm not going to stream while driving. Um, but I'll do my best to check in with you guys. And also, Steel Truth is streaming from the convoy. They're on Rumble, and it's just Steel Truth, and or you can go to steeltruth.com. So Anne and producer Liz are out there, and they're doing their streaming. So thank you guys for your prayers. Thank you everybody for participating and commenting and being part of the show today. I will see you soon. Take care, everybody.